Imagine you're holding a glass, it slips, it falls, it shatters across the floor. Now let me ask you something unsettling. Why have you never seen those pieces rise back up and rebuild themselves? Why does time only seem to move in one direction? Today, we're going to explore how that simple shattered glass may quietly destroy one of humanity's biggest dreams, traveling back in time. And the answer isn't science fiction, it's physics. When I watch a glass slip from a table and shatter on the floor, I feel like I'm witnessing more than just an accident. In that sharp, sudden sound, I see something deeper, the direction of time itself revealing its truth. I've never seen those scattered pieces rise back into the air and rebuild themselves. And that simple fact forces me to confront something powerful. Time does not move both ways. I begin to understand that the broken glass is not random chaos. It is the natural flow of the universe from order to disorder. A perfect glass sitting on a table represents structure, arrangement, and low entropy. But once it shatters, the pieces can land in countless different ways. Disorder has far more possible arrangements than order ever could. That is why the universe naturally moves toward it. When I reflect on this, I realize that what I call the future is simply the direction in which entropy increases. The past is a state of lower entropy, more organized, more structured. The future is more scattered, more probable, more disordered. The shattered glass becomes more than a broken object to me. It becomes evidence. Evidence that time has an arrow. Evidence that the universe prefers what is statistically likely. And in that realization, I feel both humbled and awakened, because the sound of breaking glass is actually the sound of time moving forward. When I think about traveling back in time, I realize I'm imagining something far greater than a machine with flashing lights and spinning gears. I'm imagining reversing entropy itself. And that thought changes everything for me. Because entropy is not just a scientific term, it is the quiet rule that governs how the universe unfolds. If I wanted to go back even 1 minute, I would have to undo every tiny change that happened during that minute. Every molecule in the air would need to retrace its path. Every atom in my body would need to return to its exact previous position. Every vibration, every collision, every movement would have to reverse perfectly. Not almost perfectly, perfectly. I begin to understand that this is not simply difficult, it is statistically overwhelming. Disorder has infinitely more possible arrangements than order. Once something breaks, the number of ways it can remain broken is beyond imagination, while the number of ways it can be perfectly restored is incredibly small. The universe naturally moves toward what is most probable. That is why I see entropy as the true barrier to time travel. It is not a lack of intelligence or technology holding us back. It is probability itself. The shattered glass stays shattered not because it must, but because the odds of it reassembling are so astronomically small that they might as well be impossible. And in that realization, I see entropy not as a theory, but as an unstoppable force shaping every second of my existence. When I first learned that many of the fundamental equations of physics work the same forward and backward in time, I felt a spark of hope. If the mathematics doesn't forbid reversing motion, then maybe traveling to the past isn't completely impossible. On paper, a falling glass plate in reverse looks just as valid as one falling forward. The equations remain balanced. The symmetry is beautiful, but the more I reflect on it, the more I realize something important. Equations describe what is allowed, not what is likely. Physics on paper is not the same as physics in reality. In reality, the world is not just a collection of neat formulas. It is a sea of countless particles interacting every second. While the laws governing each particle may be reversible, the combined behavior of trillions upon trillions of them creates overwhelming probability. And probability has a direction. I begin to see that what is mathematically reversible becomes practically irreversible. A shattered glass could, in theory, reassemble if every particle reversed its motion. But in practice, the chance of that happening is so unimaginably small that it effectively never occurs. That distinction changes how I understand time. It is not that the universe strictly forbids going backward. It is that the universe overwhelmingly favors moving forward. And that realization humbles me, because it reminds me that reality is not just written in equations, it is written in probability. When I finally accept that time cannot rewind, something shifts inside me. At first, it feels limiting, the idea that I can't go back, can't undo mistakes, can't relive a perfect moment. It feels heavy. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that this irreversibility is not a curse. It is a gift. If broken things could always be restored effortlessly, my actions would lose their weight. Words spoken in anger could simply be erased, opportunities missed could be replayed, pain could be undone without consequence. But then, would my choices truly matter? Because time moves forward, every decision I make carries real significance. Every second is unique. When a glass shatters, it stays shattered. When a moment passes, It becomes part of history. That finality gives life its intensity. Entropy, which once seemed like a cold scientific principle, begins to feel deeply personal. It explains why memories fade, why people age, why seasons change. It reminds me that everything is temporary, and that temporary nature makes experiences precious. I begin to see that the impossibility of backward time travel protects the meaning of my life. It forces me to be present. It urges me to value the now, because the now will never come again. In the end, the shattered glass doesn't just destroy the fantasy of reversing time. It teaches me why moving forward is what gives my existence purpose.